refuse to get into those bidding wars and that type of stuff. And so what I did is I came up with a very simple strategy. I called it the stale listing strategy. And I would just look at properties that have been sitting on the market for a little bit longer than normal. And that's how I find my deals.
Hey, this is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and Cam Cathcart. This is a special Friday episode we call Cash Flow Fridays, where we interview people on one specific investment strategy that produces phenomenal cash flow in this market. This show is meant to be short, sweet, to the point, so you can implement it right away into your life. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. You know, one of the hardest lessons I've learned in building my real estate business is this: I can't do everything on my own. And trust me, I have tried. Like, I was that guy wearing all the hats: acquisition, property management, marketing. I even tried my hand at bookkeeping, which, by the way, is not a great idea. It was not until I embraced the art of delegation that things really started to take off for me. I actually remember hiring my very first virtual assistant. And then I realized right away, why did I wait so long to do this? And honestly, I was amazed at how great they were. They're better than me at most things they did. And in fact, that first VA is still with me today, 10 years later. Now, suddenly I had time to focus on bigger picture things, scaling the business, finding more deals, and honestly spending more time with the family. And that is why I'm excited to tell you about our sponsor today, HireTrainVA.com. So these guys have cracked the code on finding top tier virtual assistants for the real estate investing world. They go through a brutal selection process. Only 1% to 2% of applicants make it through, so you know you're getting the best of the best. And they've got this really cool draft board where you can actually handpick from the top talent that they've already sourced and vetted. It's like having your own personal dream team at your fingertips. And if you're unsure where to start or how to delegate right, they've got you covered with a free guide on 100+ tasks that you can start delegating today. Just head over to HireTrainVA.com. You know, I believe in them so much that their owner, Valentina Brega, is a friend of mine. I actually brought her on the podcast a while back. It's on episode 42, so if you want to check that out, go listen to a masterclass on how to hire and work with virtual assistants. So hey, if you want the fast track on hiring your first VA, but you don't know where to start, just shoot me a DM over on Instagram with the word delegate. Just delegate, and I'll hook you up with some of the same resources that transformed my business. Stop wearing all the hats and scale faster. Hire a VA, free up your time, and scale your business. Go to HireTrainVA.com or hit me up on Instagram with the word delegate. It's time to take that next step in your business. Now, back to the show. Kale Delaney, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm glad to be here.
So, hey, man, let's start with the fast five to get to know you a little bit. Number one, what is your niche or niche? Did you say niche or niche?
I like niche. It just sounds better. So it sounds more fancy.
2 for 2, baby.
2 for 2, man. All right. So what is that for you?
So my niche is short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals. Love it. And where do you invest?
So my primary market is the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, but I also have properties in Georgia and South Florida.
Love it. What type of returns are you seeing on those investments?
So my average returns across the portfolio is about 35%.
Wow.
Is that like cash on cash, or is that with a sale at the end or something, or appreciation included?
Cash on cash.
Dude, killing it. You're killing it. I love it. And then what makes this better than other strategies for you? Like, why is this awesome?
Yeah, I mean, so I got into it because it checked a lot of boxes for me, which one was cash flow. I mean, it is, in my opinion, and what I've seen, one of the highest cash flowing real estate assets out there. It allows you to do it from anywhere in the world. So you can be location independent. As long as you have a phone and a connection, you can manage it. I just got back from a month in Brazil where I was managing, all the properties without a hitch. So I love that. And the tax benefits. Short-term rentals, as you're probably aware, is one of the few assets that you can actually utilize all the bonus depreciation relatively easily if you have a W-2 or 1099 still, whereas typical otherwise you have to claim real estate professional status with the IRS, which is very difficult. So tax benefits were a big thing for me because when I got started, I had a W-2. And so I wanted to be able to offset as much of that income as I possibly could as well.
We obviously don't need to do a deep dive necessarily on this, but I do want to dig into that just for a second. So if you have a short-term rental, you can potentially offset W-2 earned income with that short-term rental depreciation losses. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's the beauty of it, is that typically real estate income is considered passive, right? Which means you can't offset active income, W-2 or 1099 with passive losses. Short-term rentals are considered active by the IRS. So you can use the active losses, meaning you can do the cost segregations, do your bonus depreciation, and use that to offset your active income from your W-2 or 1099. So just for example, if you bought, just random numbers, but if you bought, let's say, a $750,000 property, did a cost seg, let's say after the percentage of bonus depreciation that you can use, you get $100,000 in depreciation. If you made $100,000 in your W-2, now effectively you made zero per the IRS and you pay zero taxes. And since I got started in real estate 4 years ago, even when I had the W-2 and the real estate income, I legally paid zero taxes every year.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The tax benefits are not talked about enough in real estate because they're kind of, boring, but it's not boring to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm like,
I love real estate has gotten me excited about taxes. Like I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Beautiful.
What does your portfolio look like today?
Yeah. So right now, we have about a $7.5 million portfolio of owned properties, and then we manage another about $3 million in properties, and that consists of 11 properties, short-term rentals that we own, 3 long-term rentals, and then we manage another 5 properties for other people.
Very cool. Hey, so tell us a little bit more about your strategy with short-term rentals. Like I mean, most people are familiar with what a short-term rental is, but like, how are you doing it? Like, what's it look like in a high-level overview?
Yeah. So, I mean, the operations of short-term rentals, and like I kind of alluded to with the talk about the taxes, is that it's considered active income for a reason, right? Because it is active work. It is not a passive activity here. So you are going to be managing, you're going to be dealing with, guest communications, you're going to be dealing with vendors and clients and all this stuff. And so it's kind of like a combo of the actual real estate and a business. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand, because a lot of people miss that and you're not prepared for it. Because if you, especially in today's market, if you really want to not only just perform, but outperform, you have to treat it like a business and run it like a business. If you just do it as a hobby, it's going to be a struggle at this day. It used to be that when everybody jumped in, like myself during COVID, it was kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, and it was very easy. You could buy almost anything, anywhere, not do anything and make money. Now it's not quite that way. You can't really run it as a hobby and just have an average property, or you're not going to really do well. So you got to run it like a business, meaning you're going to have guest service, guest communications. That's a big part. So if you don't like dealing with people, might not be the niche for you. But you're going to have to do that. And really, it's relatively simple. So, I mean, there's a couple pieces of tech stack that are critical. There's your PMS or channel manager, which is going to be your central hub that links your platforms like Airbnb and VRBO or your direct site, whatever. And then your dynamic pricing software. And both of those are basically all you really need. There's some other stuff you can get into, the weeds and stuff like that. But with those 2 pieces of tech, you can run your properties and automate, I like to say, up to 90%.
That's cool. Are you using virtual assistants in your business at all, or is it just you?
I am, as of recent. So I started hiring virtual assistants about 3-4 months ago. So now I have 3 VAs on the team. And that's been one of the big focuses this year, is building out that team.
Love it, man. Once you find a good virtual assistant, it blows your mind. Like, why haven't I been using these people forever?
But then when you find a bad one, it's like, why do people do this?
I've experienced both.
Amazing. So how are you finding deals? Or if I was going to go look for a good STR, what would you advise me to do to go find a good deal?
Yeah. So, this is one of the things I love about real estate, is that it's not rocket science. Like, literally anybody can do it. And what you'll find with me, at least, is that, frankly, I don't do anything sexy or flashy. Like, what I do to find my deals, fund my deals, all this stuff, it's relatively straightforward and boring. So the vast majority of my deals I find on Zillow. Like, literally, I find them on Zillow. So what I do is I set up a Zillow search with my criteria, what I'm looking for, save it, have it send me, when I'm in acquisition mode, send me every day, every morning, the list of properties, based on my search criteria. I check those out, and then I'll also do a manual search, and I do it reverse chronologically, because when I got started, especially in the when the market was on fire, 2020, 2021, and in the market I was in, the Smokies, which is super competitive, at that time, a property would come online 24 hours, 48 hours later, it'd be under contract with a dozen offers, 20, 30% over asking. I mean, it was just nuts. And I refused to get into those bidding wars and that type of stuff. And so what I did is came up with a very simple strategy. I called it the stale listing strategy. And I would just look at properties that have been sitting on the market for a little bit longer than normal. So at that time, it was 2 to 3 weeks. Now it's a bit longer. So I would set up my Zillow searches and I would do reverse chronological order. So starting with the oldest listings first and go down. And that's how I find my deals.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Beautiful. All right. What about funding? What's the financing look like for short-term rentals for you?
Yeah. So same, again, very simple, straightforward. I've used conventional financing. The way it works with short-term rentals is first and foremost, you got to work with a short-term rental specific lender. Do not just go with anybody or you will run into problems. You have to go with somebody who knows the short-term rentals and knows the market that you're in. Very, very critical. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. So the first property that you get in a new market, where you don't have other properties or where you don't live, typically, and again, always just check with your mortgage broker or lender, but typically you can get as what they call a second home or vacation loan, which means you can get in with 10% down. And that's what I did on the first deal. Everything else was a conventional 15% down investment loan.
Very cool.
Now, there's a couple other products out there. One is what's called a DSCR, or debt service coverage ratio, which is a commercial product, which a couple of years ago, they were very unattractive. The rates were a lot higher. They had a pretty stiff 5-year prepayment penalty. So they were really unattractive. Now, honestly, they are pretty darn attractive. They got rid of the prepayment penalties. The rates are relatively comparable to conventional. And so they don't go on your credit report. They don't base it on your income. It's based on the property's income, which they do use short-term rental data to qualify it. Yeah, if you use the right lender. So those are very attractive products now. And so that's what I've used for everything. And then I actually just closed on a property today, which was the first seller financing property that I did.
Oh, cool.
Love it.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of DSCR loans at Better Life Ref, which is my loan company. I don't know off the top of my head how many of those are short-term rentals. I don't think many, but now I got to call them. I just wrote down a note, call my representatives there and find out exactly how many. Like, are we doing that? If not, how do we do more of that? But DSCR loans. I just did one myself for the property, and it was so easy, and the rate was the same as what I'd get from a local bank. It might even been cheaper what I could get from a bank in Hawaii.
What do they want? Like, what was your bank? Because mine's at like 1.2. They want the debt service coverage ratio to be like 1.2.
Yeah, I think it was 1.2,
Right.
1.5, something like that.
Typically, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Love it. Give us an example of a deal. Actually, give us an example of a deal that you just closed on today. What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you that one and I'll give you another one that's a good representation. But so the deal I just closed on today, it's a smaller property, but it's we got it for $315,000. It's a studio cabin out in the Smokies in Tennessee. We expect that to generate about $60,000 in revenue, gross revenue, a year.
Per year.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So, that one should be a good one. And another one that we did give you more specific numbers was the first property that I actually purchased out there, which was, we closed beginning of 2021, and that was a 4-bedroom cabin that they were listing it, a scale listing strategy, how I found it. They were listing it for $700. We offered him $650. That's what we bought it for. And we put 10% down, second home loan. So put down $65K. And what we did was it had a big 2-car garage, which is another thing that I look for when I find deals. I look for what I call easy value add. Like, I don't want to get into heavy lift rehabs. I like easy value add where you have a basement or a garage or something you can convert very easily, to add additional value. So I converted that garage to an additional bedroom, a theater, and then the master suite was humongous. The closet was bigger than most bedrooms. So I turned the closet into a bedroom.
Nice.
So very cheap, very easy, about $20K to do that additional 2 bedrooms in the theater. So all in, closing costs, renovations, all that stuff, put about $100,000 in. 2023 numbers last year, that did $180,000 in gross revenue. And our expenses were $101,000. So our cash flow was, almost $79,000.
Dude, off one property.
One property. So 43%, 43% return.
That's insane.
And the real cherry on top was that we had it reappraised beginning of 2023 to remove the PMI. And so we bought it for $650, remember? 2 years later, it appraised for $1.15. So we got half a million equity with that stuff.
Congrats, man. Love hearing that. That's phenomenal. Hey, what do you think the future of short-term rentals are? Like, how is it going to work in the future? What's coming?
Yeah, I see a few things coming. So, as I alluded to, you really can't treat this as a hobby anymore. You got to do it as a business if you want to do it well. And a lot of people that jumped in again during that COVID time had that expectation that things are going to be very easy. And a lot of people bought very, very wrong, which is a whole nother issue. And so what I see happening and is already happening is kind of the wheat and the chaff being sifted out, so to speak, right? So the people who are not able to do it well or who bought improperly are either exiting the industry, selling the properties, or they're hiring people to manage their properties, what we call co-hosting in the industry, which is pretty much the same thing as property management, more or less. So what I see happening is kind of two things. One is that I think more and more people are going to start hiring co-hosts, meaning I think that section of the industry is going to continue to grow and expand, just more and more co-hosting companies, and kind of like I started as well. And I think that growth is going to lead to consolidation in the industry as well, with larger co-hosting companies buying up these smaller ones, or these smaller ones, joining up or purchasing other smaller ones, rolling up into larger companies. So I think there's going to be some consolidation and standardization within the industry. And then the second part of it is I think there's going to be just more and more of a transition into the boutique hotel space as well. That's kind of an offshoot of the industry that's been gaining a lot of more and more popularity. So those are really the two things that I see happening.
Cool, man.
Amazing. With that being said, what are some challenges that you think are, I guess not challenges that you see coming up, but challenges that you face right now in the industry?
Yeah. So, competition is a huge one. Again, just like everything after COVID, things blew up. So tons and tons of people jumped in. So just the sheer number of competitors has increased significantly. And with that, the level of competition has increased significantly. So that's where, again, you can't just have the average property anymore. And you can't just treat it as a hobby. You got to really know what you're doing. You got a pricing strategy, especially this year. Pricing strategy has been huge, in terms of your revenue management. If you don't know what you're doing with that, you're shooting yourself in the foot right there. So that's a big challenge. And
when you say pricing strategy, is that just utilizing dynamic pricing, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, so the dynamic pricing tool or software is a key piece of that. But again, where most people or a lot of people go wrong is they assume that tool is going to do everything for them and they can just set it and forget it. It's garbage in, garbage out. If you do not know your market, if you do not know what your pricing needs to be, if you don't know what your seasonality is, if you don't have a strategy for filling vacant nights or orphan nights and your holidays and all those things, if you don't have that and you don't set it up properly and continually monitor, because especially this year, 2024 has been one of the most, in the 4 years I've been in, which isn't much, but it's been the most challenging year when it comes to pricing, because you have to almost on a daily basis be checking and tweaking things if you really want to optimize, because things are just not the way they used to be. So that's critical. But so you need to be on top of your game. You need to set yourself apart. And one of the big things, again, with the trends in the industry is that to set yourself apart, what I like to tell people is that you have to create, or you have to provide an experience now and not just a place to stay. And what I mean by that is, again, if you just throw a property up there and it's just in that large competitive set, the same thing as everyone, you're just going to be in the pricing war, and it's going to be a race to the bottom on prices. And that's how you're going to compete, right? Which is not a great place to be. But to get yourself out of that competitive set, if you have something unique, cool amenities, again, providing that experience, that's where people are going to pay a premium. And so we've had some strategies that we've been doing. We've been tapping into the biohacking trend, cold plunges, saunas, that type of thing. Yeah. And that's been really very, very
great idea. That's a great idea. Hey, you mentioned something about like when you have it's kind of random, but I thought I'd give a shout out to a buddy of mine. He started a company called HostShare. Have you heard of HostShare.com?
HostShare, no.
So HostShare is fairly new, but they're growing pretty rapidly. Basically says, hey, you have all these Airbnb owners or short-term rental owners all around the country, and last-minute bookings are really hard to fill. And so you might have hey, I got 3 days right here, just empty. It's probably not going to fill. It's going to sit there. And he's like, well, we got millions of owners around the world with these spots. Why don't we just make a platform where they can just give free access to one another? And so basically, if you go sign, you pay some small fee to be a member of the site, and then all you do is pay cleaning fees. and you can go to any, like, I don't know how you choose, but you can go to other people's Airbnbs last minute and stay for free. So it's like y'all just sharing your empty spaces that aren't being filled. So cool idea anyway. Hostshare.com. I'll give a little shout out to my buddy.
Yeah. So that's funny because I'm working with some other people right now creating something similar. It's called Min Stays, MIN Stays.
Oh, nice.
Similar thing though is we're getting hosts that have vacant or open nights to offer them for free or discounted to ministry. So,
dude, that's cool too.
Or pastors, I need a relief or whatever like that. So yeah, we're working on that as well.
Dude, that's super cool. Dude, I should connect you actually with the buddy who runs HostShare. He's a solid dude, a believer as well. And so, you guys could maybe work together. That's super cool. I would love to make that connection. So
I think that's
anyway,
cool,
super cool
business model.
Yeah, so it's just leftover. It's like an empty leg on a flight. It's like you're using it anyway. It's sitting there anyway. I got a pilot buddy who lives on Oahu, and he's always like, "Well, I'm flying over to Maui today. I got an empty flight back. You want to fly on a private jet?" I have not been able to do it yet, but he's asked me like 4 times. I'm always like, "Oh, I can't do it today." But private jet over to Oahu for free. Why not? Anyway. All right, man. Well, let's get you out of here in a second. Did I ask the secret to success? I don't think I did.
You have not.
All right. Hey, what's the secret to success in short-term rentals?
Oh man, there's so many things. I kind of alluded to one, which really is providing the experience and not a place to stay. I mean, that really is crucial in today's market. But beyond that, I mean, and it's not specific to short-term rentals, but just going back to basics, you need to buy right. I mean, that's really step number 1 in the foundation. If you don't buy it right, there's only so much you can do to rectify the situation.
Yeah.
So, point. I'm always a big proponent on being conservative, underwrite conservatively, and stick to your numbers. I mean, that's where people get into so much trouble. You get emotionally attached or whatever it may be. You want the property, you got to be willing to walk away. I mean, I've done it several times. Yeah, it can hurt a little bit, but stick to your numbers and you will thank yourself. I mean, do not stretch them. And what I like to say is there's a guaranteed formula for success in anything that you do. And it's C plus D plus T equals S. And what that simply means is consistency plus discipline plus time equals success. Yeah, anything that you do. It's guaranteed.
That's like literally what we teach at the Better Life Tribe. And I know you're a tribe member. So it's like, how do we get people to be consistent and disciplined? Yeah. It's like, you figure that answer out and you're unstoppable in every area.
So, Cale, if I come to you and I say, hey, I want to get into the STR space, what is the first step that I should take?
Yeah. So, and I was thinking about this like a lot, of man, there's just so many things, but I'm gonna preface it with a couple assumptions here. So, assuming that the audience has already chosen that they want to do short-term rentals, they already have created a goal with a timeline, and they've already talked with a lender, they know their buy box, assuming they've done these steps, which if they haven't, then those are your first steps. But if you have done those things, the next thing, which, and I think I may be actually stealing this from you, Brandon, but is analyze a deal a day for 90 days.
Yeah.
That really
It'll change your life. Yeah, it'll change your life.
That really is it. And that's every time I'm in acquisition mode. And when I was purchasing the first properties, that's exactly what I do. And I still do. I mean, if you're not an expert in the market, you will be by the end of that 90 days. If you are, but you've kind of lost the pulse, it'll get you back in tune. And it's just a numbers game. Like, you're bound to find something. So, especially in today's market, it takes a lot of patience. So you got to be willing to sift through a lot of dirt to find those diamonds in the rough if you're sticking to your numbers and doing it right. And so just simply do that. And again, you're going to find something.
Love that.
Amazing. All right, man. Where do people connect with you and learn more about you and learn from you outside of the Better Life Tribe?
Yeah. So, Facebook, Kale Delaney, you can find me. Instagram, Kale_Delaney. And you can check me out. And I was a featured author in the Hospitable Hosts Volume 2 book, which I tell my story of how I got started and, really open about how my faith played a role in that. And then check us out if you are a person of faith and an entrepreneur. Check us out on the Fit Investor podcast, which our tagline is, how to be fit financially, physically, and faithfully. So Christian-based entrepreneurial podcast talking about those 3 subjects, which, if you join our Facebook community, join, shoot me a PM saying BLT for Better Life Tribe, and I will send you a copy of my deal analyzer that I use.
Love it, man.
Love that.
Hey, thanks for giving. I love it. That's amazing. Dude, Cale, thank you for being here today. Thanks for what you're doing for the industry, for your family, for us today, and for our audience. So thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Cale.
Opportunity. Yeah.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed the episode or if you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read the comments. We make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we get. And last but not least, please head over to social media. Consider friending and following and subscribing to all that stuff at Better Life and my personal page at Beardy Brandon on Instagram, YouTube, and everywhere else. Thank you again for listening. I'm honored that you would bring me along on your journey toward building wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul.